Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the Season 3 premiere of What We Do in the Shadows, made up of the two episodes, The Prisoner and The Cloak of Duplication. And I really enjoyed these two episodes, and I do agree that these two put together made a very good premiere episode. Premiere episodes together because they ran well together, and it was just overall pretty funny. So the first one, The Prisoner, deals with the fallout of pretty much Guillermo taking out the Vampiric Council as they were trying to pretty much kill Nandor, Nadja, Laszlo, and Colin. And they're trying to figure out what to do with them. And Nandor, of course, doesn't want to kill him because he's his familiar and he actually does appreciate what Guillermo did for them. Nadja and the rest of them pretty much want to kill him. And we see that they pretty much have him locked in a dungeon thing in the basement. And for some reason, Colin Robinson wants to, tase him with, a cattle prod and go through his scat to see if there's, secret messages. Unbeknownst to them, and they're also, for some reason, think that he eats raw chicken. And they just keep feeding him stuff like that. Nadja and even her little puppet that's got her soul in it are kill the motherfucker. It ain't working. But they're trying to kind of figure out what's going on. Guillermo actually has been able to get out because they can't do anything without him. He has actually gotten out, gone around to places. He waits for Colin to leave for work. He tidies up the fucking house, and he's yeah. And he's in that kind of codependent relationship, and it's really kind of weird. It's he really wants to be a vampire, but of course he is descendant from Van Helsing. So they keep kind of dealing with this kind. He, of course, is able to set up all these security things to see what's going on, all these security cameras, and is pretty much trying to make sure that they're safe and protecting them from the rest of the stuff going on. And at one point, he sees this kind of being trying to go in, and he pops up out of there. And he, of course, was trying to plant in Nandor's head because they had heard the vampiric code is this dude killed vampires, he needs to die. Nandor's yeah, but he did the warrior's code. He helped protect us and saved us, and you owe that kind of undying gratitude and loyalty and mercy to that. And he tried to kind of play that, but of course this other interloper pops in, and we see it is an advisor to the Vampiric Council, and that she has tidings from the council above, the supreme worldwide Vampiric Council. And it's okay, well, let's see how this works out. Because they had evidently sent a lot of ravens, about 84, and Czech is yeah, we should have figured out for what you had occurring for the first couple times. They even tried to call, but of course Guillermo's the only one who would really pick that shit up anyway. So they sent the usual person that advises them with a VHS tape. It's great. Oh god. So they set that whole thing up, and we see that it's Taika Waititi's character. And yeah, we usually go through this whole kind of thing, saying, yeah, you don't kill vampires and all that shit, but, well, you took out, 70% of the most powerful vampires in, the New York tri-state area, and it's, 37, 38 vampires. Yeah, we're just gonna make you guys the head of the, Vampiric Council. You guys are the Vampiric Council now. Yay! And they're is he being, sarcastic? No, what's that other word? F. Oh, I'm not being facetious here. And it's yes, facetious. And it's just, holy shit. So, now Nandor, Nadja, Laszlo, and Colin are the Vampiric Council. And then, of course, the advisor's yeah, I'll set you up and everything. And they pretty much decide that to do this, they are going to not kill Guillermo, and that they're going to make him... Well, he thinks that he's going to make him into a vampire to join them. I was no, you're going to be our vampiric bodyguard. And I'm it's a little bit of incremental character growth that they realize that they would be able to utilize someone with Guillermo's talents and everything to protect themselves. But it would have been better to just make him a vampire because he took out all of them that were pretty much trying to kill you. All he's ever wanted to be is a vampire. And he didn't immediately kill you guys. Like, honestly. If Guillermo wanted to kill them, it would be frighteningly easy for him to do that. I mean, he takes care of them nonstop. But they're like, yes, you'll accept this, but we will hypnotize you for it. Oh, so it then brings back the whole brain scramblies thing, but it starts showing like what can happen. It's like, okay, if you're not careful, one vampire doing all this shit can go crazy. Adding 2 into the mix, holy shit. 3, oh fuck man. 4, we don't know what the fuck could happen. And we also learned that it did work on him at first, but he's just essentially going like, saying that he pretty much like accepted that he was hypnotized, but he's just like, whatever. So they do all this kind of shit, pretty much like, you won't hurt us and everything. And then, of course, Colin Robinson has to see, like, yeah, anytime I, like, say your name or whatnot, you meow like a cat. So we'll have to see how that kind of joke goes throughout the season, and if they'll keep playing it up or if they'll drop it. I don't mind it, but it could get annoying unless Guillermo's like, yeah, your hypnosis does nothing on me. Because Najo's like, hey, pretty much rip off Colin Robinson's junk. It's like, I can't do that because you said I couldn't hurt anybody. And it's really funny because you see Guillermo play it just serious enough that they buy it, but that tongue-in-cheek kind of like smile that the audience is like, yeah, it's funny to him, it's funny to us, everything. So we get shifted on, and we see that they go to this building, and it actually has the Vampiric Council like on the goddamn board as they go down to the levels. It's like, all right, that's interesting. So we see that they are taken down there. We get a little bit, but we get a little bit in the first episode, but we get more in the second episode. So we see that, yes, there are 4 of them on the council, but one of them has to be the master. And Laszlo's like, fuck that, I don't want it. So the other 3 are fighting for the fucking throne, and that's just kind of hilarious. It's just like, oh god, I don't know what. It's really cool when they do the asides to the advisor, and she's like, yeah, this is all above my pay grade, but it's kind of weird to have like the people responsible for the wiping out of the previous council being installed in the council. Yeah. And Nandor bringing up like, yes, we were judged here, and Wesley Snipes was on a laptop, and it's like, yes, the fucking trial. Love that one. Well, they're fighting over that, and that's where that ends. We then get a little bit more. We see the advisor pretty much like showing them around the whole quarters of the council's chambers. They got dungeons and all different kind of places they can kind of go into. It's a really kind of cool place. They show a little bit of stuff, and they keep mainly to the rooms that they're going to be using, but it's kind of cool that they're like, hey, they have a lot of different kind of stuff, so we'll get another kind of area to look through in the show. Let's see. Yeah, Guillermo's with them as the bodyguard, and it kind of freaks him out at first until they like put him in the familiar room. But like Guillermo's like, "Fuck this shit!" And starts like crawling through the vents. We get shown like this place of curiosities, which has like all these vampiric stuff, and she's like, "Be careful what you touch because there's some really inordinately powerful things in here that you don't want to really fuck with." Going to Colin Robinson, don't fucking do that. We then get introduced to, of course, the Epitomous Cloak of Duplication. And she's like, yeah, look at this thing. And pretty much touches it to Nandor and then is able to transform it. Like, ah, yes, nice. Makes you more attractive. It's like, yeah, I understand it. Turns you into me and all that. And it's like, all right. So we get this, and they definitely utilize this cloak very well for the jokes throughout it. And an important bit of information, well, couple bits. She kind of makes fun of Guillermo by, like, they have the severed dick of Van Helsing, and Nandor makes fun of, like, yeah, your great-great-great-grandfather's dick. Isn't that pretty cool to hold? And then we see that, for some odd and inexplicable reason, the sire of all vampires is locked up in this particular place where the Vampiric Council is. And it's like, I didn't think this place would be that important, but that's a pretty big thing. So I'm thinking, okay, there might be a point where Guillermo kind of like loses his shit, or somebody lets this motherfucker out because it's chained in there. It's like, you don't want to open that door Colin opens the door, is like, yep, you don't want to fucking do that, as his, like, glasses are blasted back from his face. And it's kind of pissed off. So it's the progenitor of the vampire race. That'll be an interesting kind of thing if that thing gets loose, and if it's an asshole or not. Now, granted, it's screaming and fucking roiling in there, so it could be a mindless monster. It could be kind of like the Baron, where it's like, yeah, these motherfuckers got me locked up in this motherfucking bitch. Can I just, like, take a piss and fucking, like, wild out on some shit? We'll see. We'll have to see if there'll be tension between him, her, and Guillermo or whatnot. It's like, okay, we'll see how this works. They could use the sire to turn him into a vampire, or Guillermo could be like, I fucking hate you, vampire motherfuckers, and take out the whole line. Because according to certain lore, you take out the head, the rest of them either die or turn back into humans. So it'll be interesting to see what lore kind of implications they do with that, because I already like how they kind of mess with and do their own kind of takes on lore, especially with how it relates to, like, vampire hunters, how that's kind of like a genetic predisposition to, like, tossing shit and fucking shit up as a motherfucker. It's like, alright. Then we see that Guillermo's pretty much in there. He kind of, like, works his way around the vents throughout the rest of the system, kind of, like, mucking around with shit. Eventually gets into this library place. Colin and Laszlo get into the library place, and Laszlo is pretty much preoccupied with how it is, like, the biggest repository of pornography, and just kind of goes through all that shit. Colin Robinson is like, hey, this has, like, all the archives and shit about, like, vampiric lore. I wonder if this is tell me how energy vampires came to be, because he doesn't know if he was born, if he was made. He's almost 100 years old, and he's trying to figure out stuff with that. Well, Nadja and Nandor decide to pretty much be co-heads of the Vampiric Council, and they take Colin Robinson along with them to take notes as they go to figure out kind of what's going on with this, these people that haven't paid their dues to the council. Before they finish that kind of thing up, he also starts setting up this whole thing with the Cloak of Duplication. He's interested in, this lady that is the receptionist at this 24-hour gym he goes to. And we then see Nandor working out at the gym. It's fucking great. He's like, yeah, this is what we would do back in the day, like, admire each other's bodies and, like, compliment and shit like that. And he's, like, there being, like, that kind of, like, fucking, lunkhead kind of shit going on. And people are like, what the fuck's going on with you? We see him lifting weights while he's checking himself out in the mirror, even though there's no reflection. He fucking thunder punches a punching bag, like, across the room. He's like, shit. And we see his kind of interaction with the lady in question, Meg. And there's something there. It's like, okay, cool. Not like a big thing, but it's like, okay, they can at least talk to each other. And he tries to get Laszlo to go use the Cloak of Duplication to kind of set him up for that. Well, he's like, fuck this shit, I don't want to do it, and decides to have Colin Robinson do it. He does it, and he does the fucking worst. He uses pickup artist negging shit, and pretty much insults her, and acts like an ass, so then she goes and gets this, like, bouncer ass dude to, like, toss his ass out. He's like, oh shit, fuck. He's like, yeah, I gotta fuck that up. So Laszlo's like, fine, cool, whatever. Goes in, does his Laszlo kind of thing, some roses, some songs and everything, and she's like, nope, this ain't working, and then he gets tossed out. Like, fuck this. There's no way she's interested in men or whatnot. And then Guillermo's like, alright, cool, I'll kind of deal with this. And his works the best, and she's like, yeah, okay. And the thing is, he's talking about, like, Guillermo himself as well to a degree, but not a lot. He's trying to figure out what's going on with her. But the way he talks about Nandor, she's like, huh, you have, let's see, it's Guillermo as Nandor talking about, like, his relationship with Nandor, and she's like, wow, you must have a really good relationship with this dude, why don't you, like, talk with him, and everything. So it's, like, interesting. He's kind of freaked out by it at first, and kind of, like, walks, and then kind of, like, leaves her, pretty much setting it up for Nandor to later go into the episode and figure out what's going on. Well, while that's going on, we see that the around the same time. I mean, it's a little bit kind of different because we'd seen, of course, that Colin Robinson is hooked up with them. We go to this dude, and they're like, yeah, we don't recognize the Vampiric Council, and made their own kind of Vampiric Council, which was kind of funny. And, of course, Colin hooks up with another energy vampire there, being like, oh, yeah, they kind of trade their different kind of tactics, and then they ask, like, Colin, of course, brings up the whole thing of, yeah, how are we made? He's like, dude, are you trying to feed on me right now? Because this is kind of freaky as they're trying to figure out what's going on. So we see that Nandor is actually trying to be the more diplomatic in his approach, where Nadja's just like, fuck this shit, we'll kill you assholes, and just deal with this ourselves. And he's like, he's got a master's degree to like handle this kind of stuff. It's like, huh, they could have actually been better. Well, he's pretty much throwing some more shit at him, and Nadja just kills his ass. He's like, fuck it, dudes, do it this time, don't fuck with us, and moves out. It's like, oh shit. It was kind of interesting to see her being like, I'm gonna be the motherfucker in this kind of scenario, where usually, since Nandor's usually built for that, he usually does it. And him just kind of do the more diplomatic approach was an interesting kind of switch up of that kind of dynamic, which we then see towards the end, as that's also brought up character-wise between them as they're talking about what happened. So Nandor then goes in to try to see what's going on with Meg, and finds out she's a lesbian, and then's like, yeah, okay, cool, and he just leaves. Because after a certain point, like, Laszlo did hypnotize her to make her forget the kind of shit that was going on. And he's just like, shit, fuck, that sucks. And he tries to go to sleep, but Nadja keeps like calling him a pussy and says that he's a soft ass motherfucker, and even then put on the cloak of duplication and was like messing around with his body. He's like, fuck you, stop doing that to my body. And evidently went with Laszlo to go and try something with that cloak of duplication. So it's like, alright then, you do you. And it was funny, because when Guillermo was like moving out of the vents, we just see Laszlo looking at this porn, and so he's like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'm gonna shit. He's like, you better watch out, because this porn is gonna destroy your mind, man. So overall, I really enjoyed both of the episodes and how they linked up together with the whole Vampiric Council, and I can't wait to see what goes on. I actually kind of forgot that this was coming out this soon, and I was really grateful that they did it, and it's still at a good quality. I really like the jokes and what they're going for and the dynamic they've got. I'm like, this is a good start to the season, and I'm just looking forward to what weird-ass shenanigans these guys are going to be getting into. So those are my opinions on the episodes. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked them, if you didn't like them, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.